A few days ago on the Young Turks, we read some quotes from George Takei in which he was peeved with Clarence Thomas over some of what he wrote in his dissent in the Supreme Court case that resulted in the legalization of same-sex marriage across all of America. Now, one quote stuck out from that. He called Clarence Thomas a clown in blackface, and perhaps understandably, people weren't happy about that. And so now the charges come out. Is George Takei a racist for saying that? And so, thankfully, he has defenders. Someone has come in at Warp 10 to defend him. It is William Shatner. So William Shatner said, "I am positive that George is not a racist. Let's stop this spin doctoring." He said, "Knowing the recent vote, I'm sure he was just showing some outrage. Upset about an opinion by a magistrate that impedes a basic right, we should all be upset by the dissenting opinion." Now, this is especially good to know as a Trekkie because they are not exactly huge fans of each other recently. They've had some quite mean things to say about each other. But regardless, William Shatner is right there to defend George Takei's expression of outrage with what Clarence Thomas said. And if you aren't familiar with it, by the way, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but effectively Clarence Thomas's opinion was, you can't make the case that the government denying certain benefits or rights to gay Americans, such as the ability to get married, takes away their dignity because the government has no ability whatsoever to bestow or take away dignity. And to sort of illustrate that point, he went back to the times of slavery and said, you know, when we allowed slavery then, we weren't taking away the slave's dignity. And in the internment camps, we didn't take away their dignity. Dignity is something that is inherent to yourself and the government has nothing to do with it. Now, I know that for a conservative, that probably sounds good, the idea that your dignity, amongst other things, is determined solely from within. But the government does have a part to play in. The government willingly separating the races, willingly denying justice to some races, willingly attacking certain races. You can use a different word than dignity if you want, but they are taking something away. They are infringing on something there. Clarence Thomas is 100% wrong. And so George Takei came to the defense of gay Americans, others who the government have wronged in the past, and understand that George Takei has experience with the internment of the Japanese. He has been at those camps. And perhaps he went a little bit far with his language, but unfortunately, I suppose, he is going to apologize, and so I'm going to read part of that apology for you now. So this is from George Takei, who says, "I recently was asked by a reporter about Justice Clarence Thomas's dissent in the marriage equality cases, in which he wrote words that really got under my skin by suggesting that the government cannot take away human dignity through slavery or through internment. In my mind, that suggested that this meant he felt the government, therefore, shouldn't be held accountable or should do nothing in the face of gross violations of dignity. When asked by a reporter about the opinion, I was still seething, and I referred to him as a clown in blackface to suggest that he had abdicated and abandoned his heritage. This was not intended to be racist, but rather to evoke a history of racism in the theatrical arts. While I continue to vehemently disagree with Justice Thomas, the words I chose, said in the heat of anger, were not carefully considered." And he went on to say, "I am reminded, especially on this July 4th holiday, that though we have the freedom to speak our minds, we must use that freedom judiciously. Each of us as humans have hot-button topics that can set us off, and Justice Thomas had hit mine, that is clear. But my choice of words was regrettable, not because I do not believe Justice Thomas is deeply wrong, but because they were ad hominem and uncivil, and for that I am sorry." Look, George Takei is a very nice, a very polite man. It is his way to apologize, and I'm sure that he does feel that he could have delivered the message without that particular line, which caused some people to ignore the very true things that he was saying, and focus just on that, and that's fine. Whatever, you cannot use that terminology, that's perfectly fine. But we need to be willing to call out what the right does, what the conservatives do, what the Republican Party does. And in the media and on the Supreme Court, this is part of the strategy. Okay, they vehemently attack, I'm using his terminology there, they attack racial minorities of all sorts, but we're going to talk about racial minorities right now. And to do that, they need some sort of cover, okay? They don't want to just seem like, you know, KKK circa 2015. And so what they do is they find just a couple of representative token individuals from various communities, and then they trot them out to deliver the line that whatever group it is that they're attacking, that group has it coming. They deserve everything that they get from society or from the government. Okay, Fox News does this every day. You see, watch Sean Hannity, okay? He's got a couple of black correspondents who are always willing to come on and say what is wrong with black culture and how they deserve everything that they get. Michelle Malkin has made a wonderful career off of exactly this, okay? And I can give you other examples as well. Now, those people are, of course, free to believe whatever they want when it comes to politics, as with any other topic. But they should understand what they're doing. They are providing intellectual cover for an intellectually void party. and ideology and philosophy. And you can go back as far as you want throughout American history. We've had this before, so I'm just glad that George Takei is willing to identify it. We try to do our own part. He is 100% right. What Clarence Thomas said in that dissent is absolutely ridiculous, and it absolves the government of any number of its harshest, most disgusting sins from its past. And if that's what he wants his legacy to be, then that is perfectly fine, but we are going to identify it for exactly what it is.